8.13, the proposed reassignment of Ms. Sandy Feinn. Let me say a couple things to all the people that arrived more recently. You'll notice the two of us aren't here tonight. The president and vice president of the board are very ill, and I have the good fortune to be the clerk. So I am presiding over the meeting tonight. The other thing I want to say is, and I would defer to Ms. Feinn, I just put this on the agenda. I know you were agendized at 8:25, and it's about 8:15. If you feel you have, most of the people you want here, we can go forward, or I could take items out of order in the agenda and go later. So I'm willing to accommodate you that way.
Thank you very much for that consideration. I think we're ready to go forward.
Ready to go forward? Okay,
Sorry.
let me say a couple things before you start. Actually, Anthony, you want to start, but I want to say a couple things. I just wanted to make sure you're okay with it.
Sure. By way of preparatory remarks, you've mentioned the two board members. I'll also mention that Elizabeth Veal is in New York as a previous planned professional development. She's leading a team of K-5 teachers on a conference entitled The Science of Smarter Minds, Teaching to Think, Create, and Innovate for Schools and Careers. It was it had been planned about 8 weeks ago, so the timing isn't great. We're looking forward to the fact that we now do audio record all of our meetings, and so Ms. Veal will have the opportunity to hear all the remarks through that audio file, and I will, of course, be filling her in on the color as well. A couple remarks about where we are so far. So to remind the board and inform members of the public, in terms of an assignment of a teacher to a class, the principal will make the final decision on unit member assignments with due consideration given to unit member preference. Among the criteria considered when assignments are made are the needs of students, the needs of teachers, the needs of the district, academic preparation, experience, and credentials and authorizations. That just says among the criteria. It doesn't say how much weight to give each, but those are the things that a principal is supposed to look at when they're making a decision. I will state that I think that our contract has it right. I don't think that I'm the right person to make teacher assignments for a school, and with respect, I don't think that the board is the right body to make that decision as well. The principal is uniquely qualified and has all the information of test scores, information about what happens in the classroom, what happens in individualized education plan meetings, what happens in staff meetings, collaboration, the needs of teams, the needs of grade level teams, the needs to balance the new members of the staff with senior staff in terms of experience level. So the principal has the 360-degree view of what are the needs of the site. Particular on this process, Elizabeth Veal has made the choice to place Sandy Feinn in transitional kindergarten next year, which is being done to take advantage of Sandy Feinn's enormous strengths. And also to make sure that there's a balance of all the classes, again, in response to the needs of the students, the needs of the district, the needs of the school. So even though this is her decision to make, as superintendent, I would always be able to tell a principal that I think that they're heading the wrong way, and in this case, I've let Ms. Veal know that I support her decision, and she has good reasons for that. This is not the first discussion of this kind, although this isn't exactly a discussion as Mr. Dennis might go into. We've already had a public meeting, a meeting at the district office that was well attended. Last night there was a very well attended meeting at South School, and that was publicized to all South School parents. There were many parents in attendance that spoke very passionately on this issue. There were staff members in attendance that didn't speak, but some letters were read on their behalf. So there have been multiple opportunities. As the board knows, there is also a petition where people have an opportunity to give information as well, and I know the board has access to that. So that's the process. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. If not, I'll turn it over to Greg.
Thank you. I just want to, I know that Lynn Esselstein and you have had some email correspondence. I was at the meeting last night at South. And I just want to say this is, for those of you who were there or are here for the first time, this is a very different meeting. This is not, I don't want to mischaracterize a public conversation or not a hearing, you know what I mean. This is a board meeting where the board does business and the public has the right to observe the board doing business, observe the board deliberating, and comment on the board doing business. And I think you're nodding your head so you know what we talk about. We do have a bylaw that we follow. The member of the public who has put a matter on the agenda, as is her right, has done so. There's a 5-minute limit, so there's not the opportunity for the very well thought out, more lengthy types of statements that were made last night. And then there are opportunities for public comment. The bylaw says we take that up to 20 minutes on any given item, and then 20 minutes on the item. And then there's an opportunity for me as the current chair, if there's more people that want to talk, to consult with my board members and say, would you like to extend this for any more time or not? And we just have to see how that goes. You can certainly ask questions of the board. It's not a question and answer session. It's a listening session for us more than anything else. And it's certainly those of you who were here a little bit, we took action on a technology plan. We voted. This is not an action item on the agenda. There's nothing for us to vote on. So with that, please come forward and address this agenda item.
Make sure you turn on. If there's just one button.
Well, I had a fun experience tonight that my kids have frequently. I went to print this out and my print cartridge was empty. But I did have another one, so good evening. My name is Ellen Heemstra. My 4 children have attended South School and my youngest is currently in Sandy Feinn's class. Thank you. Each of them has been fortunate to receive the life-changing gift of having Miss Finn as their 4th grade teacher. I requested that the reassignment of Sandy be elevated to the board level, since this is a matter that impacts not me or my children, but the Hillsborough community. Incoming transitional kindergartners, many of who are new to our district, but mostly 4th graders who've been looking forward to the day that they step into Sandy's magical portable. Thank you very much for adding this item to the agenda and for your careful consideration of this important decision. My husband and I have been active volunteers in our community. He's been the coach and manager of over 20 Hillsborough Little League teams, including 5 all-star teams, coaching over 250 kids. He started the girls softball division in Hillsborough after discovering a provision allowing for the formation of this division. I've been a docent, helping kids with math and language skills at South, lead teacher in every grade level for art and action over the last decade. I select art from each class and hang it in the San Mateo Library every month to showcase our amazing talent in our school. I ran a science club for kids in our district out of my home for years, later offering the class at North School through Hillsborough Rec. I co-chaired the South Science Fair for 3 years and never failed to serve as a judge. My family teases me that I'm busier now than during my 18-year career as a healthcare venture capitalist. I don't say this to tell you of my accomplishments. I am not unique. Our schools have been built on the backs of great teachers, working in partnership with dedicated and talented parents to provide our children with an unparalleled education. My primary interest is not school politics, but the kids in our school district. Like so many who took the time to come tonight, I want what is best for them. Miss Finn has taught at the upper grade level for 31 years. She is a proven 4th grade teacher, demonstrating prowess at teaching writing and helping kids to navigate the difficult transition to adolescence. She meets each child, boy, girl, struggling academically or gifted, where they are, and empowers empowers them to be their best. The fact that 333 students and parents took the time to sign a petition to protest her reassignment is testimonial enough. Many more staff parents who strongly disagreed with this decision took valuable time to write to Ms. Field and Anthony Bernine using their own words. I trust that each of the members of the board, our elected officials, will take the time to read the comments thoughtfully written in support of Ms. Finn's before a final decision is made. As a matter of principle, I do not believe that parents should have an active role in staffing decisions. We all agree that this responsibility lies with the site principal. However, in this particular case, in face of a new principal and co-teacher in the 4th grade, it is imperative that the community be heard. We are talking about reassigning the most effective teachers, one of the most effective teachers in our district, not merely moving a teacher to a different classroom. After 2 lengthy meetings with Anthony Greenaway and Elizabeth Field, the rationale as to why reassigning Sandy Feinn is in the best interest of either the transitional kindergartners or the 4th grade students still has not been communicated either to the parents or to Mrs. Feinn. I have 3 sons who play a lot of baseball and a husband who instinctively drives to the district field before coming home. So forgive this analogy. Imagine that the Giants hire a new manager and he decides that it's in the best interest of the team to tell Buster Posey that he can no longer be a catcher and he has to bat 9th in the order. Furthermore, he can't tell Buster, his teammates, season ticket holders, or the investors why the change is being made, but ask them to trust that the decision is in the best interest of all parties. Would the Giants president and administration allow this decision to go unchecked? Anthony Greenaway and Elizabeth Field have asked us to trust their judgment and blindly accept that this punitive decision is fair and is in the best interest of the kids of Hillsborough. Over the course of the last few weeks, our trust has been fractured. It is because of decisions like this one, made by administrators without regard to students or the community, that our town is divided. We need to work together to find a solution. The board must listen to 333 members of this community who signed the petition and allow Sandy Feinn, voted one of our town MVPs in 2012 when she won the Hillsborough Community Care Award, to finish out the few remaining years in her Hall of Fame career, teaching 4th grade at South. The faster that we can come together to make what is the right decision, the less collateral damage will be done. I really appreciate your time, and before Dr. Gordon Rosenfield is here. He's a very well-regarded individual in our community and has had 4 children who have gone through South School. Thank you very much.
Before you begin, just want to point out, you got 7 minutes, that was okay. And it's 4 minutes per speaker now. This is the opening of the public comment period. If people want to, if you think you're going to comment, maybe you can start coming up and lining up. Go ahead.
I'll speak quickly. As a physician and surgeon professor at Stanford and UC, I love experiments. Not the test tube and the laboratory kind, but rather the live body and the clinic kind. So let me tell you about an ongoing, now almost 18-year retrospective double-blind study I've been conducting on my 4 children. But before you call Child Protective Services, let me explain. Jean and I moved to Hillsborough for two simple reasons. One, by the time we had our third baby, Michael, we were putting him in the bread box for lack of space. And two, if we were going to pay a life-altering mortgage, we thought we might as well move into a town with one of the best public school systems. And so began our almost 15-year matriculation at South School, beginning with our first child, Lauren, who's now 25. Well, let's get back to the experiment. The two of our children had Miss Feinn as her fourth grade teacher, and two did not. And therein lay the fodder for a great retrospective educational study. And the results are in. The two children that had the good fortune to be taught by Miss Feinn consistently demonstrated logarithmic leaps in their maturation, confidence, and literacy, which launched them into a secure trajectory of success. On the other hand, my other two kids later dropped out of Crocker School and are still living in our basement eating all our Pringles. And these exceptional results can be easily explained by the one constant in this experiment, as I called it, Sandy Feinn. Sandy is just as exceptional as a teacher. She's a quintessential example of a truly gifted and passionate educator. She always challenged my child's status quo. They're preternaturally patient, no matter how many times my kid didn't get it, and yet remained forever nurturing in the face of their fears and tears. And this Sandy effect has clearly not dissipated over the years. Both my kids still keep in contact with Ms. Feinn, proudly recounting their successes and comfortably describing their challenges. To see my almost 22-year-old son, Ian, once a timid fourth grader, afraid to raise his hand or open his mouth, now a confident, successful college senior, still visiting his fourth grade teacher, is proof positive of Sandy's transformative and sustaining influence. This kind of success story with my children would be impressive enough on its own, but these same results have been experienced by countless other parents. The sheer numbers of voices who have recently spoken up to tell their symmetrical stories is countenance of this fact. It is this incredibly positive long view, and I'd say more than the 360 view, long decades view, personal experience, true perspective that Jean and I have had, and so many others like us, to offer as an antidote to the recent vitriolic, emotional, and defensive exchange that has unfortunately taken place between the community of parents and the school. And as I like to say to my plastic surgical residents and colleagues, sometimes we must take a surgical pause to reflect upon the results, not just from our efforts of yesterday, but from our efforts from over the long term. Because as is in this case, the school's administration, we do not have the ability to immediately see the true influential fruit of a great teacher's day's work. It remains invisible, working its magic until 5, 10, or even 15 years later, as in our personal case, when you can look back and truly appreciate what has been wrought by one teacher, such as Ms. Feinn. I can only hope that the moral of our story, echoed by so many other South School parents, is compelling enough to inspire the administration to change their minds. A great example such as Sandy Feinn is not the main thing in influencing others, it is the only thing. Few things are harder to put up with than the annoyance of a good example. As I've shown in my children's instances, we unconsciously imitate what pleases us and insensibly approximate to the characters we most admire. In this way, a generous habit of thought and action that Sandy Feinn exemplifies has carried with it an incalculable influence on our children. 100 years from now, it will not matter what our bank accounts look like, the sorts of houses we live in, or the kinds of cars we drive. But the world may be different, a little better, perhaps richer, because teachers such as Sandy Feinn were important in the lives of fourth graders during one of the most important pivotal stages in their schooling.
You're at 4.5 minutes, so please.
If we strip away 7 lines, if we strip away from this dialogue all the parents and all the school administrators, we are left with what really matters, the essence why we're here. Our children, your students. So let's do what is in their best interest and allow Ms. Feinn to continue most effectively applying her talents where they've been consistently proven in 4th grade. And it is for this reason that I respectfully beseech you to reconsider your decision. In this regard, I recommend we hearken to John Stuart Mill, the British philosopher, who back in 1869 wisely advised that since one's personal conclusions may be wrong, the more opposing views considered, the more likely the whole truth will appear and lead to the best, and in this case, correct conclusion. and we will emerge together as a community stronger than ever. Thank you.
I just want fair warning, I've gone over twice now, and I'm not going to, I'm going to call it a 4-minute. Thank you.
I also want to thank the board for hearing us tonight. I want to thank Mr. Reyna for his professionalism in engaging us a few times in this matter. It's important for the board to know that we are not here simply to be heard and to observe. We're here because we really need your help in the best interest of our children. I have no stake in this game. I have a 5th grader and a 7th grader. My 5th grader was in Sandy's class last year, and she was an amazing influence on him. She's been an incredible mentor and tutor and one-on-one inspirational speaker for my older daughter, and just an amazing 4th grade teacher. The only mission of this group, everyone, is to change this terrible decision. That's the only that we are lucky to have a good, effective, well-meaning superintendent and principal, but this is simply one they just have wrong. You would expect, if you weren't at the meeting last night, that the principal would have laid out a factual foundation for why this incredible 4th grade teacher of 30 years is being moved down to transitional kindergarten, where she has no training, no experience, and frankly no interest or motivation. But that's not how it went down. We still are lacking an explanation. After hearing from all the speakers twice at 2 meetings, we still lack that explanation. The questions from the crowd last night at the end of the day are still why? Why Miss Feinn? Why this great 4th grade teacher? And why transitional kindergarten? We do agree with the basic tenet that the principal should make this decision. However, our mission statement, your mission statement on the district website, in the very first sentence, says that the education of our kids is a partnership. It's a partnership between teachers, between students, and the district. So what we have here is a decision being made by a good, well-intended principal, but one who's only been in town for 7 or 8 months, in the face of 30 years of collective wisdom of students and former students and teachers who have spoken and written from colleges and high schools and Crocker and kids who are still at South. And that can't be ignored. It has to be listened to. And the criteria that, again, Mr. Ray and I set forth today, which is in the teacher contract, think of your transitional kindergarten parents deciding whether Mrs. Feinn, who's going to be apparently presented to them in the fall, is qualified. Academic preparation, none. Training, 0. Experience in the transitional kindergarten arena, she has absolutely none. These parents who are going to be starting in or transitional kindergarten, they came to Hillsborough, they made it to Hillsborough, the reason why most of us made it, for public safety and for the education of our children. And this cannot be in the best interest of the kids. This can't be the best we can do. The best we can do are teacher applicants that walk in, and yes, there's an application for TK right now on our website, on the Hillsborough School District website. These applicants are coming in saying, I am all about early child education. That's what turns me on. That's why you should hire me at your school, because I want to be a difference maker in that classroom, like Sandy Feinn has always been for 4th graders.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Catherine Egbert. I clearly walked off a baseball field and into this meeting. I apologize. My son is currently in Sandy Feinn's class in 4th grade itself. Up until this year, he was miserable at the was friendless and picked on during kindergarten, first grade, third grade, and most especially second grade. He'd ramble on the floor, and he would cling to the minivan. He didn't want to get out of the car and go to school. He clung to me at night in bed, sobbing, because he was so upset. He said he was picked on, and he hated his life. The absolute worst year for him was 2011, when he was in second grade. He was treated for anxiety and depression that year by a psychiatrist. This was also the year I quit my full-time job to stay home to attend to him. Without my income, we sold our house on Bridge Road recently. It was only within the last few months, 2/3 of the way through Sandy Feinn's class, that he's reached a state where I'm able to return to work. To say that Sandy Feinn has altered the course of my son's life is an understatement. She's altered the course of his life, my life, and the life of my entire family. She's picked up where other teachers at South left off. Not every teacher will click with every child, but viewing the comments on the petition and through personal experience, it's clear that Sandy has a gift. She has a gift to inspire and nurture fourth grade kids who don't fit the mold and who are struggling like my son. Depriving future needy fourth graders of this experience is cruel. You, as a school board, have at your most fundamental responsibility a duty to protect, educate, and care for the kids of Hillsborough, all the children of Hillsborough. This is best accomplished by employing educators with a wide variety of skills and experience. It does the district no good to have a roster of teachers who received their credentials in the last 5 years, regardless of their technological prowess. Money-saving hires aren't what's good for the kids, and continuing to pursue that agenda while simultaneously trying to hire an unneeded assistant superintendent is truly a gross misuse of district assets. What's good for the children are experienced, caring teachers, those like Sandy Feinn, who dedicate her time, her own time, on nights and weekends to taking care of kids like my son. Everyone in this room knows that Sandy will quit and will not move to TK next year. It doesn't matter how much you say, how much support you say she'll get. It's a demotion that will force her to retirement, and we all know it. No one who is forced to do work they don't want to do will thrive. No one who's forced to do work they don't want to do will thrive. No one. I would also like to note my dismay at the petition presented last night, signed by 7 South teachers, voicing their support for Sandy's demotion. These teachers' annual performance reviews are given by Ms. Feinn, the leader of the effort to get Sandy out of the district. The action has, in a single stroke, created a toxic environment at South School, an environment where the parents' opinions, that is, the opinions of the people who pay their salaries, are considered an unwelcome intrusion. Ms. Feein's initial decision not to meet with parents because, quote, I do not have the time, unquote, is another example of antagonism and hubris that has seeped into the school system and has no place there. Banding teachers together who are beholden to an administration for their livelihood in support of the administration's agenda is astonishing. Has everyone here ever worked in a place where the management pitted their employees against each other? What would you think of such a business if you saw it? Would you want to invest in it? Let me say it again. Hillsborough has no commerce. The people standing on this side of the room or sitting are responsible for all of the district's assets. To defy the community wishes on issues that directly affect our kids is very poor judgment, and it shows strong detachment.
Thank you, that's very
lived in this district for 22 years now and have 2 children who are in college. I cannot tell you the profound influence that Mrs. Sandy Feinn had on my family. I have 2 very different children. Both have incredible strengths. Both have need, like all children. This woman really changed them by giving them more self-confidence, by teaching them to love themselves and to love the world around them and to love to learn. That is a key of every educator. This woman has it in spades, and she has it at this grade level. This is a point that you must not ignore. I'm just going to bring up make two more comments. Do you remember when Coca-Cola changed their formula? I mean, seriously. Sometimes you have a great thing. Don't blow it. My second comment. 3 years after we left Sandy Finn's classroom, my kids are 18 months apart and we're in there back to back. We went on a very fortunate trip to Europe for a wedding. I wish I had a video of my children in the Museum d'Orsay in Paris, where they ran from painting to painting, describing the artist of each painting. The people in that museum were in shock. I was so proud, and it was all because of Sandy Feinn. You can't teach individual painters their painting and the beauty they bring to the world to transitional kindergartners. I am not in no way am I demeaning the work and the importance of transitional kindergarten. It's crucial as well. But as was already stated, find people who are experienced, trained, and working in that area. Do not take a national treasure and throw it away.
Is there anybody else who has a comment?
Jennifer, I'm not a parent at South, and I've only seen this looking at information in the community. I just had a question as to whether grievance was filed by the teacher, and if that process was utilized to help resolve some of the very impassioned response in the community.
Thank you. I'll make sure we get the rest of the public comment and then we'll address that question. We held to the 20 minutes, we have 3 or 4 more minutes.
My name is Jeff Ezekiel. I am a student in Sandy's class at the moment, and my son was in her class 2 years ago. I could recount also all the ways in which Mrs. Finn had an impact on my son. I feel I'd be gilding the Sandy Finn lily because I don't believe that there's any contest here to the claim that she has profound effect. And I will say that upon meeting Mrs. Finn, like I'm sure many of the parents here would agree, I was actually quite skeptical at first because she is unorthodox, and I think we all acknowledge that. Instead, I chose to rise because I'm shocked for a different reason. I'm certainly shocked by the decision, but I'm shocked because by virtue of proceeding in this direction, it appears that district management and the administration, the board, is presuming to threaten the foundation of community school administration partnership that is, at its heart, the real source of strength for this district. We share intense pride in the school district in Hillsborough. It is the reason why so many of us have chosen to live here. And I'm shocked that in the face of such strong sincere and heartfelt opposition, the district would choose to proceed with this course of action. So I'd implore you, before you make a decision as to whether that decision, to question whether that decision is at this point founded in a strong, well-formulated, and thoughtful rationale, or in fact, if at this point it is one that has been undermined by politics, perhaps by pride, or anything else that might contribute to an organization moving in the wrong direction. Because I'm sure that all of you around the table and all of us here share a conviction that we would not want to look back at this meeting or this episode as the time when the Hillsborough School District and the foundation of that district, that partnership, was suddenly cracked. We don't want to look back at a time when the trust that is inherent to the strength of the district was threatened because not only was a poor decision made, although reasonable minds perhaps can differ over that, but the process in which that decision was made and the rationale that was offered for that decision was inadequate. So do what you must and do what you will, but I would beseech you, please offer us a fitting rationale so that we can at least all achieve closure, even if it is a closure that we have to travel a far distance to make. Because as things stand right now, there is no closure that is in front of us for this decision. And in the absence of that, there is a real threat as to which the district, under which the district is operating.
I'd like to answer I'm going to close the public comment period now. Thank you very much, and thank you for I have to thank you very sincerely for the tone and tenor of your comments and the articulateness of it. There was a question about was a grievance filed, and the answer is yes. We have, I think most of you know this already, just by way of information, we have a negotiated contract with the Hillsborough Teachers Association, and which includes the reassignment criteria that you've heard at all the meetings that the superintendent has read. And in any labor management agreement, there is a, if you will, dispute resolution process, and they're called grievances. And my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is one has been filed, which is certainly the right of any member of the association. And it goes through steps depending on the nature of the grievance. But this particular contract ends up before the governing board, which makes the final and binding decision. So if that grievance proceeds, we will be sitting as a hearing officer, adjudicatory body, not to, this is me speaking now, not to, in the grievance context, necessarily address all the passionate concerns that you have, but whether that contract provision was applied appropriately, fairly, and consistent with the intent of the contract. Okay, so that is the answer to your grievance. And there are timelines to that, and things happen within so many days and whatnot, and that will proceed at pace. The public comment's closed, and thank you very much again for all coming and attending the other meetings as well. Thank you.
There are more comments. Would you consider extending?
How many more?
I have something not
Wait.
related to this issue.
Wait, please.
When can I speak?
Wait, please. There's another item that says items not on the agenda. How about two more? Go to the microphone, please, and speak directly into this.
This is not a heartfelt emotional plea. This is you are empowered, you are the board, so I appreciate what the contract says, and I understand the grievance process perfectly well. This is completely separate and apart from that. You as our board have gone on record, I'm sorry the president's not here, as saying that you guys value the transparency, communication, integrity, respect, and teamwork in our community. I'm going to read from probably what that big book is in front of Anthony right now on your board, Philosophies and Policies. That the governing board recognizes its responsibility to ensure accountability to the public for the performance of our school districts. That you understand that you have to effectively fulfill the responsibilities for setting direction, ensuring accountability, and providing community leadership for the district. This is about your leadership. This is your job. This is why we put you in those seats. Don't just sit back and listen and rely on a contract revision. This is about so much more than that. You guys are the board. You set the direction. You set the tone. You are empowered, and we're asking you to take action.
Thank you. Is this on? Thank you. One more, please. Would you speak into the mic?
So I just got a point of clarification, and along the same lines, I'm just wondering, what I heard you say was that you will consider the contract, and you will make your decision based upon the contract. And if I also, am I correct in saying that, of course, the contract does not consider any of the comments made here tonight by the taxpayers of Hillsborough? I mean, I'm just trying to understand it. If you could help me along those lines. And well, that's good.
Thank you. Let me try to clarify, at the risk of confusing it more. There is a great symmetry between the criteria in the reassignment provision of the contract that the second or third speaker mentioned. He went through the criteria for an involuntary reassignment. So what I'm trying to distinguish for you is to whatever degree there is a symmetry between those criteria and the kinds of things you're talking about, certainly they're considered. Okay? But it is a more pointed inquiry. So that's all I'll say about that. So thank you.
I'd like to thank everybody who came tonight, who came to the meeting last night, and came to the first meeting. Everybody shared some amazing stories of the effect that Ms. Finn had on your children. And Elizabeth Veal has listened, and I have listened. I want to say just a few brief things. There is no attempt to put politics, an attempt to try to hire younger teachers that are cheaper, or force the resignation of any teacher here in the district. There's a disagreement. There's a disagreement between whether Ms. Finn is more apt and more matched to 4th grade for next school year or transitional kindergarten.
Wow.
One of the difficult things has always been with this is that I cannot talk about evaluations of any teachers in public. There are things that any teacher does extremely well, and there are things that all teachers need to work on, every single teacher. And in Ms. Veal's judgment, this is the best decision for the school, for South School, for the students of South. I acknowledge and empathize that it's not a satisfying answer. I even acknowledge that it is reasonable that you want to hear more.
Will you be sharing those qualities with the board, the positive and negative qualities?
The time, with respect, I'd be happy to talk with you about that at the end of the meeting.
Because Sandy Feinn, you haven't shared them with Sandy Feinn.
So, in closing, I would like to say that the principal of the school, and certainly in my role as superintendent, we're working all the time for what we feel is in the best interest of students. It could be that there's a disagreement at the end of the day about what that is, but that is our conviction, and that's what we're trying to do, and that's what we'll continue to do as we reflect on your comments, and I know Elizabeth will listen to them recorded tonight as well.